Hi, this is John at Time+Space, and in this video today we're going to take a quick look at the new sample library by Zero-G, and it's called Deeva, and as the title suggests here, it's a dance vocal phrase instrument. And this sample library is for Kontakt, and it's actually Kontakt file, so you need the full version of Kontakt to use this library. It will not work with the free Kontakt player. So very quickly, the library itself has over 650 24-bit WAV samples, and it's centered around this main interface here, which has the waveform in the middle and the controls at the bottom here and to the right, and the menu for selecting the different vocal phrase samples here in the middle, and over here you've got an effects rack as well. So I'll go into detail in these in a moment, but what I'll do first is just quickly go through some of the samples so you can hear what Deeva sounds like.
Oh, come on, come on, and I can't leave you, and I can't leave you, and oh, come on, oh, and I can't leave you, and I can't leave you, and I never, never, never want to come home again. All I wanna do, all I wanna do, all I wanna do is love you. I'm leaving early in the morning. I'm leaving early in the morning. I looked up at the sky. I love you, babe, forever. I'm moving on up and on up and on. I'm moving up. I need to feel your heat. Right. Rain. Round and round and round we go. Oh, rising, rising, rising. Ah. Oh. Hey, ha. Oh. Oh.
So this is the main interface for Deeva, and as I mentioned earlier, you've got the waveform display in the center here, with the main controls down at the bottom and over to the right here. And in the center here, just above the waveform display, you've got the kind of media browser box here, so you can go in here and just literally select any of these presets and it will load up the samples for that particular preset. So we'll just stick with A, B at the moment. And so starting over here on the right hand side, we've got legato, which is basically means when it's on, you can only play one note at a time, and when it's off, you can play more than one note at a time. So very simple, but there's some settings down here which you can use to make the transition when legato is enabled. You can make that transition between the two notes nice and smooth. Time mode here, this is basically where you can, if when it's on, it means that you can sync the vocal phrases to your host sequencer, or you can use the stretch mode to time stretch the vocal samples. And release mode, this is very useful. It basically adds release samples to the end of the phrases, so it makes the transition very smooth between the different phrases, and you can alter the volume and the release time for those release samples. So next in here we have the speed, and this basically controls the time transition between the legato notes. So you have to have legato obviously enabled. If it's not enabled, it's just kind of grayed out and you can't really see it. So you enable that, and then this basically controls the transition speed from when you press or play one note to the next when it's in legato mode. So next here we have the attack, and this basically just allows you to alter the attack for the vocal phrase itself. So over here when it's on 0.
All I wanna do, all I wanna do.
And then if I put it over here and it's on, say, full up to 127.
All I wanna do.
You can hear the difference between the two.
All I wanna do.
It just creates a more smooth start to the actual vocal phrase. And then next over here we have the pitch, and this is only enabled when the time mode is enabled. If it's not enabled, then it just grays out again, a bit like the speed on earlier. So yeah, just enable that, and then basically this is great because it means you can adjust the pitch of the vocal phrases to your project. So if I just I'll play the same sample, we'll pitch it down to
All I wanna do. All I wanna do.
All I wanna do, all I wanna do, all I wanna do is love you.
All I wanna do, all I wanna do, all I wanna do is love you.
And then this is the stretch, which we talked about earlier. Enables you to actually time stretch the samples. And over here we have the release time and the release volume. This is for the release sample. So when this is off, they disappear. When it's enabled here, you'll see them ping into action here. So the release time alters the duration of the release sample, and the volume obviously alters the volume of those release samples. And then next over here we have the offset 1 and offset 2. And this basically means you can set different offset or start points for the samples. So offset 1 here, I can move this along the waveform, and when I play the sample on the key, it will play from this point instead of at the start. And the same for the offset 2. And then this is useful for legato mode, where you move between one key and the other. It will basically on the next key it will start at that point. So it's really useful for creating some kind of new phrases, I suppose, with the existing patches which are already in Deeva. And then lastly here we have the volume, which controls the volume for the entire set of samples within that preset. Next over here on the tab at the bottom we have the effects rack. And there is modulation effects, including chorus, flanger and phase as well. And over here we have a compressor, EQ down here with a filter. We've got the drive, overdrive, convolution reverb, delay, and amp simulator, and also a cabinet simulator as well. So plenty of effects there to alter the sound of the vocal phrases. I'll do now is just go through some of the these effects and turn them on and off and play with some of the settings so you can get an idea of how they sound.
Waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for tomorrow, 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 waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for tomorrow, 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 waiting for tomorrow. Waiting for tomorrow, waiting for tomorrow, waiting for tomorrow, waiting for tomorrow. Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Why don't you give it to me, baby? Why don't you give it to me, baby, yeah? Waiting for tomorrow, waiting for tomorrow. What do I have to say to love you, baby, in every way?
So that's a quick look at Deeva by Zero G, and for more information please visit www.timespace.com.